afternoon, everyone, and welcome to UPMC Rooney Sports Complex here on the south side of Pittsburgh. Bob Pompiani here, joined by Missy Matthews shortly. This is a Mike Tomlin Tuesday, and the Steelers certainly are licking their wounds right now. Back-to-back losses, high-scoring affairs, including the one this past Sunday, 35-25 against the Green Bay Packers, and that game seemed to be certainly in the Steelers' favor at halftime, up 16-7. Second half, totally different story, as the defense gave up 3 touchdowns on 3 possessions to start that second half, and then everything changed. 28-9, the Packers outscored them to win 35-25. So the Steelers have a lot of work to do to fix those problems, as this week they go against the #1 rated offense in the NFL. That would be the Indianapolis Colts. You look at their numbers and they're mind-boggling, starting with Jonathan Taylor, 1,000 scrimmage yards. He also has 14 touchdowns. As a group, they have the most rushing touchdowns and touchdowns in general. Then if you have to go back all the way to 2004, the Kansas City Chiefs, that's how productive they've been. Their point differential is plus 166, and they're going to be a tough opponent coming here, especially knowing the Steelers are having their issues in the secondary and defensively in particular. So the Steelers have got to certainly get to the quarterback, make more plays that way. When they've been at their best, they take the ball away, they force things, they hit the quarterback, and last couple of games hasn't been that way. Daniel Jones is off to a terrific start. You know, we talk a lot about second chance opportunities for quarterbacks in the NFL. We've seen that. Geno Smith was one of those guys, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, and now it's Daniel Jones. Left the Giants, signed a 1-year deal there, and when he first came in, it looked like he was going to be the backup to Anthony Richardson, but he soon took that job away, and he has been on fire under Shane Steichen, their head coach. The numbers are spectacular. They don't turn the ball over, and they use all of their eligibles. And since the Steelers have had problems with tight ends, we saw that last week with Tucker Kraft, you got a guy in here in Tyler Warren out of Penn State who's having a tremendous rookie season. Of course, it helps to have Jonathan Taylor with a run game. You have Michael Pittman Jr., who made a tremendous catch last week, one-handed in the end zone. You also have Alec Pierce taking the ball deep. They got options everywhere. Very difficult to defend them, but the best way to do it is possess the football. And I think in a game like this, time of possession will be a very big part of this game. When you look at their defense in Cincinnati or in Indianapolis, we talk about the offense and why not. They're plus 166, but their defense under Lou Anarumo, and he, was left to go by Cincinnati. He's found a home there under Shane Steichen, and boy, what a job he's done. He's always been regarded as a very good defensive coach, but now he's got some players who are making plays, especially in the secondary. They have 10 interceptions, and that's where their game begins. They're very good at stopping passes down the field. All right, head coach Mike Tomlin is ready to go. Let's take it upstairs to Mike Tomlin and his Tomlin Tuesday press conference.
Good afternoon. As always, I'll start with a quick review of our last performance. As I said after the game, man, just really disappointing on a lot of fronts. But probably the most important component of it is we didn't put 60 minutes of football together. Felt like we were doing the things that we needed to do over the course of the first 30 minutes of action, although it wasn't perfect by any stretch. You're always a little bit concerned when you're settling for field goals when you're playing good people. It seems like touchdowns is how it gets done in our business at this level. And so it was a little bit less than comfortable at halftime settling for 3 field goals. I think those drives were stopped by penalties and negative plays on 1st and 10, put us in some 2nd and long circumstances. We didn't perform very well in 2nd and long, not only in the first half of the game, but in the totality of the game. It produced a lot of 3rd and longs in the game. That's low percentage conversion rates for us. That's low percentage conversion rates for everyone, to be quite honest with you. We were in more 3rd and longs in that game than we're comfortable with, and I think we suffered the consequences of that, particularly as the game wore on. On the other side of the ball, I thought a couple 3rd down conversions in the 3rd quarter were significant, not only in terms of keeping us on the field and producing touchdown scoring drives, but I thought it just changed the texture of the day. They got 60 yards on 1 3rd down conversion. They got 35 on another. That's 100 yards on 2 plays, field flipping plays, touchdown drive producing plays. And I just didn't think we did a nice job recovering from those. First and foremost, you don't want those plays to happen. But after they happened, I didn't think we did a good enough job recovering from that and finding our footing as a collective football group, offense, defense, and special teams. in an effort to make the necessary plays over the course of the last 15 minutes to win the game. Regarding those plays, we certainly need to be better in third down than we've been, but it doesn't necessarily mean dramatic changes in terms of schematics and things of that nature. If you look at those two plays, on the 60-yard play, the quarterback was hit as he let it go. And so it's details that are usually the difference when it's a millisecond. And on the other play, the roughly 35-yard play, he got outside the pocket on us and extended, and we certainly got to do a better job of keeping him constricted in the pocket, man, and getting two guys at the catch point down the grass. And that's one thing that we didn't do in either circumstance. We play a lot of man-free concepts. It usually gives us an opportunity to get two guys at the ball down the grass. We didn't in those instances, and it produced field flipping, drive producing, touchdown drive producing plays that really kind of change the texture of the ball game. But for us, we view all three phases as an opportunity to win. We didn't make the necessary plays in the three phases to secure victory. There's some personality things that were concerning as the game wore on. The turnover component of the game is something that we value here, obviously, and is one of the building blocks for engineering victory for us. We turned the ball over in the second half. We didn't get any turnovers. I think that's the second game in a row that we didn't get any turnovers, and that hadn't been us. And we certainly need to get back to that component of our winning formula. Protecting and preserving the football while taking it away from our opponents. That certainly is going to be significant this week when we lean in and play the Colts, man. They're a group that does that very well. From a health standpoint, before I get directly to Indy, I'll update you on a couple of guys. Scotty Miller, we talked about last week, man. He had a broken finger. It has been repaired. How functional he is will determine his ability to contribute or the level or the quality of that contribution. Daniel Akewale has got a ACL injury that will definitively have him out. Deshaun Elliott can be declared out this week also with his hyperextended knee. Isaac Seumalo can be characterized as questionable with his pec injury. Just had a brief conversation with him in the training room. He's in a good mindset. He certainly is going to be limited at the early portions of the week, but he'll have a chance to contribute, particularly because he's a veteran player. He has some global snaps in his bank that could be an asset to him in terms of being ready to play on a limited number of snaps that maybe a younger player would not have. We got some other bumps and bruises, man, associated with play that may limit some people at the early portions of the week. And then we'll harden that up as we get closer to game time, but not expecting any of those guys to lack availability at the end of the week. Now on to Indy. Man, they're a really good football team, but they need no endorsement from me. Been watching the video over the last 48 hours or so. It is telling, to be quite honest with you. Starting first and foremost with their offense. They're high scoring. They don't punt very often. And the way that they're getting that done is pretty black and white. They got a rock-solid offensive line that's been together, led by Nelson largely for a number of years. They do a really good job of controlling the line of scrimmage and getting hats on hats. They're a good zone scheme group. They're a good gap scheme, a pull scheme group. And obviously Nelson is a major component of that. Behind that collective, man, they got Jonathan Taylor, who is really on top of his game right now. But he has been for a number of years. I think in 22 and 23, he dealt with some injuries, but 24 through 25, you see his talents. He's significant. He's got great stop-start ability. He's got great short area burst and vision. He's got the long speed to finish plays, as evidenced by the 80-yarder that he had last week. But he's always been explosion play capable. When you play a guy like that, man, it's really an all-day job because of that home run hitting ability. We got to do a really good job of setting the edges and certainly being in the appropriate gaps. They do a nice job of running the ball out of a variety of personnel groups and offensive formation structures. that make you cognizant of that regardless of what they have on the field. Because they play so well behind Taylor in their running game, I think they've really done a nice job of preserving and protecting the ball, as I mentioned earlier. I think they got 4 turnovers on the season. Daniel Jones has been spectacular in that space. He's taking care of the ball. He's distributing the ball to a rock-solid group of eligibles now that's been together for a number of years. Pittman and Pierce have been together for a number of years. Pittman is rough and tumble. He's got the in-breaking routes. He's the chain mover, if you will. Pierce has always been a downfield threat, a guy that to get one-on-one down the grass with is a problem. And certainly coming off last week's performance, man, where we're in some one-on-one circumstances that were field-flipping plays, that certainly has our attention as we prepare today. But it's not just those 2 guys. They got Downs that plays in the slot as a capable interior slot receiver. They got A.D. Mitchell, man, a second-round pick from a couple years ago, who is really talented. And certainly they got their first-round pick, the young tight end out of Penn State, man, that hadn't warmed up to it at all. Man, he's plug and play, not only in terms of his playing ability, but their utilization of him. They use him in a variety of schemes. They get the ball in his hands early and often. Some of the things that you saw on video at Penn State, man, you see on video in Indianapolis. But that's why you take dynamic players like him that high. He's been an integral component of what they've been able to do offensively. Can't say enough about it. Kudos to Daniel Jones, man, and his ability to redefine his narrative. But I doubt that can be considered an outlier today. It's a lot of pressure being a young quarterback, man, drafted high in the programs, man, that don't have a lot of traction. There have been a lot of examples of guys, when given an opportunity to turn the page and get a new environment, the talents that made them high-round draft picks turn up. And certainly his is turning up in 2025 in this environment. But as I mentioned, man, he's in a stable environment. Shane does an awesome job with the offensive schematics. He's got a stable receiving group, guys that have been together for a number of years. He's got a veteran offensive line and running back who are on top of their game. And so when you put all of those things together, man, it's not surprising that he and they are doing well. On the other side of the ball, we're familiar with these guys from a personnel standpoint because we've played them quite a bit here recently. But it also is some new schematics, new to them, but not necessarily new to us. We've competed against Lou over the years, from his years in Cincinnati as a defensive coordinator. I see some things that are certainly Lou, but he's certainly adaptable in terms of highlighting the talents of the men that he works with. It starts inside and up front with their defense. Buckner and Stewart are Grizzly veteran players, man, who are really good at what they do. They control the line of scrimmage. Stewart's really tough against the run. Buckner obviously is a dynamic pass rusher on the interior. They do some things to create matchups for him on guards, on centers. The schematic variations that you see, particularly in one-dimensional passing moments, really highlights their talents. They got a nice edge group that runs deep. They play a lot of people. They're multiple. It helps them on third down, man. They get in a bunch of structures on third down. You can see nickel 4-2, nickel 5-1, dime 3-2, dime 41. Lou does a nice job of keeping you off balance by mixing up a variety of personnel groups, particularly in one-dimensional passing moments. At the linebacker level, man, got a lot of respect for Franklin. He's their defensive quarterback. I just appreciate a guy who's grown and developed within a system or location. In playing them over the years, man, at the early stages of his career, he was a core teamer, and then he became like a rundown defender and then a support defender to Shaq Leonard, and then he became the defensive quarterback, and it's just been a nice, fluid progression. He's a volume tackler. He has been for a number of years. He gets to the ball all over the field. He's a very good blitzer. Lou is using him in a very similar way that he used Logan Wilson from his time in Cincinnati. you can see some parallels in terms of preparing for these guys. They use Kenny at the nickel spot in a very similar way that they use Mike Hilton, for example, at the nickel spot in Cincinnati. Again, it doesn't make operating any easier, but it's certainly some nice things to draw from a familiarity standpoint, so that we can get better equipped or get a better understanding of some of the things that they're doing, so that we can, counteract that. But they're a great group. They're getting a bunch of turnovers, but they've been up on some people. People have been one-dimensional, and usually bad turns to worse, and they've benefited from that. They've done a nice job of preserving and protecting the ball. I think their point differential on the season is, plus 150. And I think it's indicative of some of those things that we've been discussing. They're a really good group. They're rolling. They got really good momentum. It's an awesome challenge for us. I'm excited about the prep process that leads to performance. And so we got a big week ahead of us, man. But it's always nice to perform in Acrisure, and we're excited about that. I'll pause and open it up for questions.
Mike, Kemp said after the game that he didn't think that the team, the players, handle adversity very well. And he said if they start feeling sorry for themselves, it's going to avalanche. And he said it was a clear case of that. Do you agree with that? Did you see that?
I certainly agree with that. As I mentioned, I don't think I like how we responded to the explosion plays, field flipping plays, drive-producing conversion third downs that happened in the third quarter. I didn't think our offense responded very well to the non-call on the first third down of the half. And, you don't always have control over what happens to you in game. Rest assured, some things are going to happen. There's ebb and flow over the course of 60 minutes. But in that instance, as a collective, we feel like we didn't respond in the appropriate or the desired way. We didn't smile in the face of it. We didn't produce the type of plays that counteract those things and get the balance back in our favor. And so we're certainly being critical of ourselves, and we're utilizing that as fuel as we prepare for our next opportunity.
Mike, how do you fix that? Is it is guys looking in the mirror? How do you fix that?
The first component of fixing it is acknowledging it. You really don't get an opportunity to fix it until you face those circumstances again. And so we spent some time acknowledging it. We're going to get back to work. We certainly believe that we work in the right spirit. We do the right things environmentally. We're going to get back to work, man, and wait for our opportunity to rectify it. You can spend a lot of time talking about your ills, but the true fixes come in stadiums. And so that's why sometimes I'm somewhat hesitant to respond to the how do you fix it question. There's certainly procedurally things that you go about doing that fixes it, but the fix happens in stadium, and the rest of it is just talk.
Mike, you've got a pretty mature group, especially on defense. Should they, at this point in their careers, be able to handle adversity better than they did on Sunday?
Sure. Our kids should do what we tell them to do, but they often don't. We all fall short of perfection, man. That's why we're always working as individuals and as a collective, whether it's football or life.
Like just one clarification, injury-wise, on Elliott, you said hyperextension. Is that actually a positive thing as opposed to what you thought you saw on Sunday night?
I didn't have any preconceived notions, and so I just have learned over the years to wait on clarity from the medical experts, and so I don't know that I had a perception.
Is week to week a fair standard to describe him?
It is.
Is he a candidate for injured reserve?
We haven't discussed that at all yet, but you can characterize him as out for this week, certainly.
When you look at the way that Indy's offense runs with Tyler Warren and those big tight ends, what do you miss when you don't have him on the field for that?
He's a significant component of what we do, particularly relative to some of the things that Indy does well. He is a central figure in our secondary in terms of run defense, for example. He covers tight ends oftentimes in passing circumstances, and so certainly we have some adapting to do in terms of how we divide the labor up this week. But that's always the case when you lose someone, particularly someone significant. It's not a one-person job, it's a multi-person job, and that's the spirit in which we're planning as we sit here today. There'll be several people given an opportunity to meet the demands of what he does for us.
What have you learned about playing against Shane Steichen over the years? Not just him coaching in Indianapolis, but also like you faced him in 2022 when he was OC.
I think the run game balance, the use of quarterback mobility, the run game balance, the use of quarterback mobility, the corresponding play passes and misdirection passes, his ability to run the ball and pass the ball out of various offensive personnel groups and formation structures. His gun running game is really impressive. His quarterback up under passing game is really impressive. He's got a well-balanced and diverse attack. And he's got a specialized division of labor. You see it being played out in some of the guys that we mentioned. Pierce being a down-the-field threat, Pittman being a chain mover, et cetera. But that's usually the case when you're talking about good offenses, man. There's well-defined division of labor. There's versatility. There are multiple personnel groups and so forth. And all of that kind of reflects Shane and his group.
Mike, you said that you don't necessarily want to fundamentally change the scheme in some of these instances, specifically third down, but do you look at taking over sole play calling for defense or making adjustments?
No, that's not on the table as we sit here today. We just got to keep doing what we're doing and do it better.
There were some bold statements made early on before the season started about what type of defense this could be. Obviously, it didn't play out how you envisioned it, but what do you chalk that maybe disconnect up to from the early evaluation to what we're seeing play out?
We make no excuses about how or why we fall short. Our job is to perform and perform at a high level, and we haven't done that. And so I'm excited about getting back to it. 7 games or whatever doesn't make a season. We certainly got more in front of us and more opportunities to write our story, whether it's individuals, whether it's a component of our team, or whether it's our team in general. I think that's our general mindset.
Like Cam and a few others talk about not enough fight. Is that the same as handling adversity, or is that a separate issue?
I think it's all being described in a variety of ways. I didn't see or hear his words, and so I'm not going to speculate on what he meant. But Cam and I are usually aligned in terms of how we see things relative to this collective and what we need to do to push forward.
So did you see a lack of fight when you watched the tape?
No, I don't necessarily say a lack of fight in terms of effort. I'm talking about fight in terms of playmaking. You know, you don't get credit for trying hard. We're not in the try hard business. Our fight is about production and producing, and we certainly didn't produce enough plays over the last 30 minutes of the game, particularly in any of the phases to secure victory.
Like you said for Cincinnati, that you felt failure to stop the run was a component of not getting them into disadvantages down distance. You largely stopped running against Green Bay, but they were still able to get there with short passing. Is that a similar problem that needs to be addressed?
No, I thought the run game wasn't an issue versus Green Bay. Certainly tackling in the passing game was. Tucker was a major component of that. We didn't do a good enough job getting him on the ground in particular. I think he had 100 yards of run after catch himself.
Last 2 weeks, quarterbacks have gotten the balls out really quick against your defense. How do you kind of counteract that and get more production from your pass rush?
I think that's been our life for a number of years. I think anytime you got dynamic rushers, I think that's the first way that you work to minimize them. I think that's everyone's agenda, to be quite honest with you, when they play us, to run the ball in an effort to stay on schedule, to minimize one-dimensional long yardage circumstances, and to get the ball out quickly. And so from that standpoint, it's nothing new. It requires no quote-unquote adjustments. Certainly, we can coach and play better.
Mike, when you guys install rules on, for the defense to respond to different things as the pre-snap plays out, and you're seeing these mistakes that continue to happen, how do you guys course correct on that when it's like, hey, we've installed this, you know what it is, and it's still being a problem?
I think you're always putting 8 pounds in a 5-pound bag. I just think that's the nature of what we do as coaches. There's never completeness of work. You never can say, oh, we got that. Now, you got it until the next time something comes up. And that's not only defensively, but that's in all 3 phases of the game. You're continually tooling and retooling what it is that you do, making sure that it remains sharp, and when it doesn't, finding the appropriate fixes or alterations in an effort to keep concepts, people, or units going.
Sort of that point then, Mike, what did you determine, what did you discover about where you guys are in the high red zone, kind of to your opening comments about some of the drives that stalled out? Aaron mentioned that as well in his postgame.
Yeah, sometimes it's just about playing clean, you know. You get a penalty and it puts you behind the chains, or you have an ineffective first down play for a variety of reasons, and it puts you in 2nd and long. That's kind of been our issues. Again, I don't know that it requires anything dramatic in terms of an altering of personality relative to plans or scheme. We certainly could put them in a better circumstance to minimize negativity, to minimize some of the penalties that have occurred, and certainly we can put them in better position to perform, and they certainly can perform better. It is certainly a component of the game that is significant for us, something that we value. We've largely been really good as an offensive unit in the red area, but we certainly were not, particularly in the high red Sunday night.
Mike, how do you evaluate the job that Terrell Austin's done to this point?
You know, I've known Terrell a long time. He's very capable. He's very thorough. I've largely been pleased with his work, but certainly he and I are not pleased with where we are right now from a defensive unit perspective, and so we're just going to keep working.
Mike, do you still see communication issues in the secondary, or is it just guys not finishing plays?
You know, in some instances it's communication, but communication is always strained in the secondary, particularly when you're faced with pre-snap shifts and motions. And so I'm not going to act like that's some earth-shattering statement. As I mentioned when we were talking about tooling and retooling, that's a component of coaching that you'll always be urgent regarding. Pre-snap communication, because week in and week out, the adjustments change, the shifts and motions change based on offensive units, based on the talent within those offensive units, how you choose to deploy your people based on those things. And so there are alterations to communication and adjustments every week, and so there's always urgency there. We certainly can be better there, and we will.
You had Eccles in over Slay late in the game. What went into that decision?
We were just playing. We were rolling guys. Eccles has been good for us and is deserving to play, and we played him some.
Ranked last in the league in total defense, but you also haven't had a takeaway since the Dublin game. Which is a bigger red flag to you in terms of the way your defense is trending?
You pick. You know, I just think that, you know, they both are significant in terms of playing the type of defense that we desire.
How would you characterize the play of Slade? He only played about 50% of the snaps last game.
You know, he's been solid at times. Certainly, he's left a few plays out there, but I think that's not only reflective of him, but reflective of the collective. You can say the same thing about us as coaches, starting first and foremost with myself.
Mike, it looks like you guys only had 10 guys on the field on that two-point attempt. How does that happen, and who's maybe in charge of making sure you got 11 out there?
Eccles was in for Slay. Eccles thought that they were going for one. I think he came off the field because he's not on field goal block, and we weren't able to get the transitional component of that. And that happens from time to time when you're rolling a lot of people. You never like it, but the reality is the more people you play, the more complex rotations are, particularly when rotations get abnormal.
When you look at the lack of turnovers, is it more, or teams maybe just being more careful with the ball, or are you guys simply just missing opportunities?
I would imagine teams are working to be careful with the ball. I mean, I know we work to be careful with the ball. Sometimes it's just not taking advantage of opportunities. I know we probably dropped 3 or 4 balls against Cleveland, for example. And there's a price to pay when you miss opportunities. And so it's not only about producing opportunities, but it's about taking advantage of them. And we hadn't done that. There have been some balls on the ground that we weren't able to recover, for example. And so we're just going to keep working, man. We feel really good about our values regarding our turnover culture, the things that we tangibly do, the physical labor that we do week in and week out on a routine basis, not in a reactionary way relative to the fact that we're not getting turnovers right now. No, it's just a component of our everyday business. It has and will continue to be because we value that component of play. We're not getting the fruit of that labor, but we're committed to continuing to work.
Mike, when you guys, in the past 2 games, the quarterbacks have basically averaged getting the ball out before 3 seconds because of their quick reads. What do you guys have to do to take away primary reads more consistently? And and how do you kind of correct what you guys have been doing against that?
You know, there's a lot of answers to that, to be honest with you. None of it earth-shattering or interesting. You change up schematics, you play man, you play bogus zones, all of which we do. We just haven't been doing it well enough to minimize what you discussed, and so we're going to keep working.
Does either the recent play of the secondary or the injury to Elliott make you more likely to pursue a trade for some secondary help?
I think we're always open for business, particularly as we get close to the trade deadline. We're always buyers. We're always trying to position ourselves to be the best that we can be this year. But that not only applies to the secondary that you asked about, I'm sure that applies to all three phases of the game.
Mike, you guys saw Jones basically like a year ago. How does he look different on tape than he did when he was in New York?
He's at the sticks of a really good offense. They're running the ball. They're taking care of it. He's got some eligibles that have been together. He just looks really comfortable in a structured system, and it's going really well for him.
Like just one league-wide thing here, as far as about the halfway point, how are you finding the implementation and the communication to the coaches of the expedited review process?
It has been a non-issue.
Mike, there's reports of you guys worked out about Scanlon yesterday, and reports that you're going to sign him. Can you speak to that? And you're going to add
We're also working out Von Bell and Eddie Jackson today. It's just a normal procedure for us on Monday and Tuesday, like it is for the other 31 teams. We're continually evaluating what's out there and how we could potentially be better. If we sign them, you'll hear about it.
Mike, how has Spencer grown as an extra offensive lineman if he has to fill in for Isaac?
We have no reservations about his ability to perform at a starter level. He's done it in the past. That's why we work to be inclusive regarding his participation. He's done some awesome things at an offensive lineman reporting as eligible. And so I'm excited for him if Isaac is unavailable and he gets an opportunity.
All right.
Great, thanks.
All right, that's head coach Mike Tomlin getting set for the Indianapolis Colts. I'm joined right now by Missy Matthews. And Missy, the injuries are starting to pile up, specifically the one to Deshaun Elliott. Hyperextended knee was the official word, but that means he's not going to be around for a few weeks at least.
Yeah, I think, Coach said they're going to call it week by week, but officially ruling him out, as well as Daniel Qualley, who's dealing with an ACL. The good news, however, is that Isaac Seumalo, who injured his pec in the game against the Packers on Sunday night, he will be questionable. So we'll have to kind of see what happens there. Obviously, Spencer Anderson, who we're so used to being Mr. Eligible, filled in for him mainly in the second half. And then Scotty Miller, who missed the game due to a finger injury. It will depend on what happens during practice this week for him.
Spencer Anderson continues to evolve. He's now a pass catcher, too.
Yes.
He can do it all. We have more to talk about when we come back. We're going to take a break. Mike Tomlin talked about the injuries, talked about the challenge that is the Colts, and also talked about what has to happen to change what we've seen over the past couple of weeks. We'll delve into that and more as we continue right here on KDK Plus and Steeler Digital platforms. Don't go away.
Get all your Steelers gear direct from the team. Shop the Steelers Pro Shop in-store or online for all things black and gold. You can get jerseys, hats, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can't find anywhere else. And of course, get the ultimate Steelers game day accessory, the Terrible Towel. Steelers Nation shops here. Get your gear in-store or online at shop.steelers.com.
Change in the second half offensively?
Not a whole lot. I just feel like we had some discipline issues and some penalties that were unnecessary. And then you're not going to win a lot of games when we're so bad on third down. Boz bailed us out with some 4 incredible kicks. But you're playing good teams, you need to score touchdowns, and we just stalled out in the high red zone.
Aaron, what can you say about Jordan Love and just how far he's come over the years, and also just how he played out there tonight?
Yeah, I thought J Love played great, and he was super efficient. You know, he didn't get sacked, moved around really well, made some plays outside the pocket. Thought he played outstanding.
Aaron, not finishing those drives, does that have carryover for the offense? Especially heading into the second half when you're not able to finish in the first half.
Well, it felt good. It was 16-7. We had a nice drive there at the end of the first half, and then, just didn't decide the game. But the one play where, I don't know if it seemed like the guy was offsides on 3rd and 8 and didn't come up with a catch. They didn't make a penalty call. And then we punted, and they hit a kind of wild play to 85 to kind of get back in the game. That was like a big momentum turn in the game.
Aaron, what does an offense have to do when you get behind the sticks to be able to overcome that? Like you were talking about those third downs in the high red zone.
Yeah, we had too many penalties, too many negative yardage plays, and then I wasn't accurate enough on third down, and we weren't creating enough space. But we'll look at the film, and we'll get better, and we got a good team coming in next week.
Our fans are here. Give them something to cheer about today.
The crowd at Acrisure is so loud.
There's nothing like game day in Pittsburgh.
Oh my, TJ!
This defense is swarming.
It is picked off. What a catch! Wow! Guess who? Touchdown, Pittsburgh Steelers!
We'll see you at Acrisure Stadium. Here we go.
He's a significant component of what we do, particularly relative to some of the things that Indy does well. He is a central figure in our secondary in terms of run defense, for example. He covers tight ends oftentimes in passing circumstances, and so certainly we have some adapting to do in terms of how we divide the labor up this week. But that's always the case when you lose someone, particularly someone significant. It's not a one-person job, it's a multi-person job, and that's the spirit in which we're planning as we sit here today.
That's Mike Tomlin talking about the loss of Deshaun Elliott. It happened on that play, which we referenced earlier with Tucker Kraft. It was almost like a lame duck throw by Love. I give him credit for getting the ball there, but everybody was out of sorts there, and he went up and made the catch, and then he got all those additional yards, and at the tail end of it, it was Elliott who paid the price when his knee got compromised. Now he has a hyperextended knee, but his presence there is important, especially since there is no Minkah Fitzpatrick to come in and take care of that kind of stuff anymore. So I guess they're going to have to figure out a different way, and maybe it's Jalen Ramsey moving back into that safety spot a little bit more than we've seen.
Yeah, it's going to take more than just one guy. I don't think you want to just put Jalen Ramsey, in Deshaun's spot because they like to move him around so much. But Deshaun was definitely a hub of communication as well in terms of helping get people set, other than just Patrick Queen, who's getting the defensive calls in from Terrell Austin. Deshaun is, he's the steady Eddie. He knows this defense inside and out, usually knows what to do, makes good plays. So it is definitely a huge loss for the Steelers defense, as you saw it continue to go poorly in the second half of that game against the Packers. And now knowing that he's week to week with a hyperextended knee,
right. You
don't want him to come back too soon. He already missed some time in the beginning of the season, but he's definitely a guy that you want to be playing on your team, especially when your defense is trying to regroup here, it feels like, after these two games.
Yeah, back-to-back games, combined yardage of 704, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. The Steelers defense has really got to get tighter. And Missy, last week they tried to get to Love blitzing more, but they still didn't get to him. And if you don't get to him blitzing, then you got some problems in the secondary, because he on Sunday night has been terrific now. He's 5-0 on Sunday night, and he has 15 touchdowns and no interceptions. And he was at his best, I thought, in this game.
Yeah, it was mentor against mentee, and even Aaron Rodgers, after a disappointing loss, giving the flowers to Jordan Love and his performance and what he was able to do. But it was, the Steelers were able, I think, the Green Bay Packers only had 17, 18, 19 rushing yards in the first half, completely changed in the second half in terms of, hey, you guys are going to stop the run, I'm going to go after this tight end, and they kept connecting and things were working, and even Josh Jacobs was getting, into the passing game as well as the run game. So it was just a very felt wonky performance where it felt like nothing was going right. And there, unfortunately, you see Deshaun Elliott doing his best there and immediately grabbing his knee.
Yeah, and certainly I'm sure the Steelers are going to have to expect a lot of what they have seen in the past couple of weeks to increase against Indianapolis, which is one of the better offensive teams. Using the tight end, that's been a problem. We saw it with Tucker Kraft, and now this week they come in with the Penn Stater, Tyler Warren, who can do so many different things. And I think he's in a great system because, number one, he's got a run game, as Mike Tomlin talked about. Anytime you have a guy like Jonathan Taylor rushing the way he's rushing, he's going to end up with over 2,000 scrimmage yards. He already has 14 touchdowns himself, and we're not even halfway through this season. But the focus has to be on him, and so now all these other guys, like Warren, like Pittman, like Pierce, all of them, are really difficult when you put them all together. And nobody's really been able to stop them, as evidenced by that 166-point differential.
Oh, absolutely. And, you talk about Jonathan Taylor, and it feels like every week we say this, or Coach Tomlin says it, but the competition gets harder and harder. You went from Chase Brown, where they weren't running a lot. We saw what happened. Josh Jacobs is somebody the Steelers have faced when he was with the Raiders. But this week, this is a home run hitter, a guy that, as Coach had said, is an all-day investment in trying to stop him and not let him wreck the game. And, it helps when you can run the ball, get time off the clock. They're usually cashing in. They don't punt often. This is definitely an offense that is going to be a tall task for the Steelers defense.
And one of the things they have to really clamp down on is missed tackles. They had like 11 in that game against Green Bay. And if you watch this guy run, the missed tackles are going to be part of it. He has had a lot of extra yards after contact, and so that's going to be a big key. Steelers have certainly got to get better in that department. When we come back, we'll continue to talk about the Colts and what the Steelers have to do. They're still 4-3 on top of the division, but the Ravens have entered the equation again. After a 1-5 start, they got a win the other night, and they play on Thursday night coming up, so that's a big game against Miami. Things get a lot more interesting as time goes on.
Always.
The plot thickens in the NFL as the weeks go on. We'll talk more about that and more as we continue right here on this Tomlin Tuesday.
Our fans are here. Give them something to cheer about today.
The crowd at Acrisure is so loud.
There's nothing like game day in Pittsburgh.
Oh my, TJ!
This defense is swarming.
It is picked off. What a catch! Wow! Guess who? Touchdown, Pittsburgh Steelers!
We'll see you at Acrisure Stadium. Here we go.
What do you think are some of the big issues that you guys are having in defending the pass, whether it be man stuff over the middle? I mean, Tucker Kraft was just repeating over and over again. What are some of the issues that you're seeing?
I think it just comes down to understanding situations, doing your job, doing it at a high level, just playing with a sense of urgency. I think when you understand the situations, understand the formation at the end is tails, is keys, and I think that's the part that we got to be better at. I think when it's man-to-man, you just got to, it's man-to-man, like you got to eat. Like, I think we got the best guys to cover in the world. I think we just got to go out there and do it. It's just, we just got to lock in on the details, do what we do, and just be better.
How do you fix an issue with sense of urgency? How do you get guys to play with more of that?
I think you just gotta do it at practice. We do it at practice. I think when you get to the game and something go left, you kind of get a little timid or whatever you want to call it from there. I think you just gotta hone in, lock in, and just be ready for the next play and the next play and the next play. Just keep going. Like, it's a Warriors game. Like, things ain't gonna always be perfect. We just gotta battle back.
Are you seeing guys maybe getting frustrated and then compounding problems on defense?
I think sometimes when you get beat, you kind of get frustrated, especially like maybe you knew the situation or maybe you just got beat man-to-man, like whatever it is. I think when it comes to that, I think you kind of get frustrated as a human, and as a player, because you want to be great, you're competitive. I think every single guy on our defense is competitive and don't want to lose a rep. So I think that's when we just got to hone in on the details and just be better, just be honed in, just have a sense of urgency and be physical, be fast, be aggressive.
Get all your Steelers gear direct from the team. Shop the Steelers Pro Shop in-store or online for all things black and gold. You can get jerseys, hats, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can't find anywhere else. And of course, get the ultimate Steelers game day accessory, the Terrible Towel. Steelers Nation shops here. Get your gear in-store or online at shop.steelers.com.
As I mentioned, I don't think I like how we responded to the explosion plays, field flipping plays, drive producing conversion third downs that happened in the third quarter. I didn't think our offense responded very well to the non-call on the first third down of the half. And, you don't always have control over what happens to you in game. Rest assured, some things are going to happen. There's ebb and flow over the course of 60 minutes. But in that instance, as a collective, we feel like we didn't respond in the appropriate or the desired way. We didn't smile in the face of it.
That's Mike Tomlin talking about facing some of this adversity, reacting to Cam Hayward's comment that the team didn't have enough fight. He elaborated on what fight means in his view, which is, handling those situations better than they did. And you might remember, Missy, at the beginning of the season, we were talking about the Steelers being a very good team when it came to discipline. They had the fewest amount of penalties for a long time, and they also weren't taking these undisciplined calls that we saw in this game. So I don't know if it's frustration level, whatever the case may be, that makes everything worse when you start doing that on the field.
Yeah, you could definitely tell that was making Cam and some other guys not so happy. I think even, when Nick Herbig had his on special teams, there were a few snaps and series that he did not play on defense following that, even with DK Metcalf, things that I think even Aaron Rodgers echoed. But it felt like it started to begin in Cincinnati with the penalties, trickled into this game, which you would have hoped would have been cleaned up. So definitely something that those team leaders are not happy about. Cam Hayward, always one of those guys that the media wants to hear from following a game. Sometimes he does it right away. This was he's going to sit there, he's going to take a shower, then he's going to come out. And I'm sure it was him trying to make sure that he wasn't emotionally speaking, even though it was pretty, out of character for Cam, not in a bad way, but just it wasn't all keeping it positive moving forward. It was, hey, I'm going to call some people out. We're going to do better.
Well, they have to do better because right now they had, in their pass defense game, they're ranked dead last in the NFL. I didn't think I'd be saying that given, the talent they had over there, but here they are after back-to-back games where they've been pretty much, dissected in the middle of the field especially. So now you have a team that knows this. Mm-hmm. And I would expect that coming into this game, they're going to try to exploit what they've seen on tape. It is a copycat league. We talk about it all the time. I don't know the approach you have. Obviously, you got to start with Taylor. And they did a good job with Jacobs in the first half. They took him kind of out of the game. And then the Steelers did not run the ball as much in the second half, and they started to run the ball. But I think it starts there. But, this is a tall assignment, given the fact that they've been passing the ball tremendous on everyone so far in this year.
Right. And, maybe this is the best medicine for the Steelers, knowing that this is not, a cakewalk, not that any game in the NFL is clearly anything can happen in any day, on any day. But with what Jonathan Taylor has been doing, you talk about Offensive Player of the Year. I mean, when you talk about MVP, you never know how that's going to shake out for him. But I just think that, the Steelers have to stop the run. They have to commit to doing that. That is going to go back to people staying in their gaps, the discipline, not just not getting penalties, but doing what you're supposed to be doing. And I think, for the offensive side of the ball, we've talked a lot about defense. It's also a matter of not settling for the field goals and getting the touchdowns. It felt like drives were just stalling all night against the Packers on Sunday.
And when you look back, it was 16-7 at halftime. It could have been more. They chose to kick field goals on those situations, again, down a distance, helped that decision to be made. But there was a 4th and 2 call that I thought they may roll the dice and go for it, just because you knew when you're taking a team like this, the Packers or any of these high-scoring teams, you're going to need more than just field goals. When you start settling for field goals, then it's a problem.
Yeah, I think everybody thought it would be more of a high-scoring game right out the gates. Mm-hmm. But it was, as you said, just a 9-point lead at halftime. But a lot of Chris Boswell field goals, not that you don't appreciate what Boz does because he gets the points on the board. It feels like everything's automatic for him. But in terms of the offense, you want to see them getting those touchdowns. I'm not asking for 4 touchdowns to 4 different tight ends every week or something crazy. It was just something that wasn't going well for them, and it's not good when both sides of the ball are not able to get into a rhythm and do something consistently.
But Boswell has been terrific. We're watching these, and over his career, it's stunning. He's hit 85% of his field goals, 50 and beyond. Most players, 85% is good enough for any field goal, let alone 50 and beyond. And quite frankly, he had a block earlier, and that one when the sod gave way and there was a divot. Those are the only 2 misses he's had. He could have been perfect on the season.
Yeah, and again, it's why you trust him to go out there and to make those kicks. It's just impressive to watch what he does on the sideline to get ready when he knows it could be his number called to go out there. Just the mechanics he goes through, the routine, and doesn't look like he's breaking a sweat whatsoever. But the Steelers are lucky to have him, but again, also need to, let him kick some extra points and just go for those touchdowns.
Even though he likes kicking, he loved the fact that he wouldn't be called upon, and they score 35 in a game without any field goals. That's what the goal is. We'll see what happens on Sunday afternoon when the Colts come to town. It's a big game for both teams, especially the Steelers, who are now 4-3. They'd love to get to 5-3 and put more pressure on the rest of the teams in that AFC North. We'll talk more about this matchup when we come back right here on KDK Plus and Steeler Digital platforms.
your Steelers gear direct from the team. Shop the Steelers Pro Shop in-store or online for all things black and gold. You can get jerseys, hats, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can't find anywhere else. And of course, get the ultimate Steelers game day accessory, the Terrible Towel. Steelers Nation shops here. Get your gear in-store or online at shop.steelers.com.
Guys been out of position, including myself, not making the plays that we're supposed to be making, but that was pretty much it. Like I said earlier in the week, we just got to eliminate the small communication issues that we've been having. That was pretty much it.
What's leading to those plays where you guys are just out of position when, again, it seemed like you guys had the plan early with the stuff that you had?
I mean, it's just, we start fast. I was saying going into the second half that we just got to finish strong. Like, that's the tendency. It seemed like we always start real fast, and then when it goes to the second half, we struggle a little bit, and that's what it looked like today.
Juan, how much of this is just their confidence? Even great athletes can have a lapse in confidence collectively too.
I don't think it's confidence at all. If I'm being honest, I don't. I don't think anybody's going out there just like expecting to be beat or nervous or something like that. Literally, I just feel like we just gotta work on the things like finding the ball when they throw it, making the tackles that we're supposed to make. Things simple as that.
Do you feel like these are fixable things that you're seeing?
Definitely. I mean, just make the tackle, literally. Like, we can do certain drills in practice that will allow us to make those tackles, stay in our gaps. When the ball's in the air, track it, things like that. It's easy to fix.
Deshaun, going forward, is enough secondary you guys can piece together, assuming he's not playing? Assuming he's out, the secondary you guys have the bodies to win?
I mean, we got guys everywhere. I mean, you got me, you got Pep. We got a lot of guys that can step in and help with that role. Deshaun was one of our leaders, He did a lot for our defense. I'm not really sure what his injury is. Hopefully he's back. But I think we got the guys that can step in and make those plays.
Our fans are here. Give them something to cheer about today.
The crowd at Acrisure is so loud.
There's nothing like game day in Pittsburgh.
Oh my, TJ!
Defense is swarming.
It is picked up. What a catch. Wow. Guess who? Touchdown, Pittsburgh Steelers.
We'll see you at Acrisure Stadium. Here we go.
We've spent an awful lot of time talking about the Indy Colt offense, but their defense gets overlooked. It's just as effective.
Yeah, and their coordinator, someone Steelers fans are very familiar with, coming from Cincinnati, and just what they've been able to do. It is a definite complementary balance between their offense and defense. The offense is the splashy, explosive, pretty side, but in terms of their defense, they're still doing some really great things. So, for a Steelers offense, as we just talked about in the last segment, settling for field goals is not going to work, especially against this team who seems like, getting touchdowns is not difficult.
Right. They're going to have a lot to work on this week as they get set for the 7-1 Colts team. When we come back, some final thoughts as the Steelers get set for Indianapolis at 4-3, trying to get to 5-3. We'll discuss that when we return.
Our fans are here. Give them something to cheer about today.
The crowd at Acrisure is so loud.
There's nothing like game day in Pittsburgh.
Oh my, TJ!
This defense is swarming.
It is picked up. What a catch! Wow. Guess who? Touchdown, Pittsburgh Steelers.
We'll see you at Acrisure Stadium. Here we go.
Didn't execute in the second half. We had a great first half. Came out having 7 points, and then we just didn't execute well in the second half. It's embarrassing to come out like that, play the way we did. So just to put two performances like this back to back is it's embarrassing. It's not the standard, so we got to fix it ASAP.
What was Mike's message to you guys in the locker room after the game?
just didn't get the job done tonight, but we got to stay together. We can't hang our heads on this. We can't let these back-to-back losses fester. We got to, watch the film. We got to own it. But at the end of the day, we got to flush it because we got a good team coming in here next week. So we just got to play better, a lot better, and fast.
What changed about the third down defense? You guys were shutting it down early, 0 for 4 for them on the other side early, and then it seemed like they popped a few plays and then just kind of broke over.
Yeah, they were making some good plays, but we just didn't execute like we should have. And I think it's just kind of been the trend for us the past couple of weeks, and we just got to get back to playing still football, still defense, and like I said, it's just unacceptable the way we've been playing the past couple of weeks. So we got to figure out what's wrong and get back in the film room, analyze it, because like I said, we got a good team coming in next week, so we got to get better fast.
Alex, you stressed all week about stopping the run, and you guys did that. But is this fixable now? What happened here tonight?
Yeah, I think it is fixable. Like I said, we just got to look at the film, see what was wrong. But at the end of the day, it's about execution, and we didn't do that well tonight.
Get all your Steelers gear direct from the team. Shop the Steelers Pro Shop in-store or online for all things black and gold. You can get jerseys, hats, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can't find anywhere else. And of course, get the ultimate Steelers game day accessory, the Terrible Towel. Steelers Nation shops here. Get your gear in-store or online at shop.steelers.com.
Before we go, and in case you missed it, some big-time injuries affecting the Steelers right now, Missy, and the biggest one is Deshaun Elliott.
Yeah, he's dealing with a hyperextended knee. Coach Tomlin saying he's going to be week to week, but ruled him out already for the game against the Colts. Daniel Akwale dealing with an ACL. He is also out. Isaac Seumalo, who was hurt in the Packers game as well with a pec injury, he is questionable. And Coach Tomlin did say that Von Bell and Eddie Jackson were in for workouts today, probably due to the Deshaun Elliott injury. And Scotty Miller dealing with a broken finger. He did have it repaired. We'll have to see what he does in practice.
Right. We'll see what happens this week. It's a big game for both teams, especially the Steelers, who try to get back on track after losing 2 in a row. Steelers-Colts, you'll see it on KDK, 1 o'clock on Sunday. Our pregame begins at 11:30 a.m. For Missy Matthews, I'm Bob Pompiani. Thanks for joining us. We'll do it again next Tuesday right here at the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. Have a good week.